Big fines show Europe is serious about competition. OpenAI said it would buy Chrome if Google is forced to sell. And teenagers say social media has had a mostly negative impact on people their age. Welcome to Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. In a landmark enforcement of its new digital competition rules, the European Union has fined Apple 500 million euros, or about 570 million US dollars, and Meta 200 million or 220 million US dollars for violations under the Digital Markets Act. Apple was penalized for restricting app developers from directing users to cheaper alternatives outside its App Store, while Meta faced sanctions for forcing users to choose between personalized ads or paid ad-free experiences, infringing, according to the European Union, on their right to freely consent to data usage. These fines are the first under the DMA, signaling the EU's commitment to curbing the dominance of major tech firms and enhancing consumer choice. And just to put the amounts into perspective, the largest fine handed out under the European laws to date is 1.2 billion euros, or about 1.35 billion US dollars, imposed on Meta or Facebook in May 2023 by the Irish Data Protection Commission, and that was for violating GDPR rules related to cross-border data transfers. So, these are the first under the DMA, but they're pretty stiff fines. Both companies have been given 60 days to comply with the decisions or risk additional penalties. Apple and Meta have expressed intentions to appeal, criticizing the EU's actions as unfairly targeting American companies. Now, the enforcement comes amid heightened transatlantic trade tensions, with U.S. President Donald Trump previously criticizing European regulatory actions as economic aggression. Despite these pressures, the European Commission emphasized the impartial enforcement regardless of company origin, aiming to ensure a fair and competitive digital market. In a significant development during the U.S. Department of Justice's antitrust trial against Google, OpenAI has expressed interest in acquiring the Chrome browser should the court mandate Google's divestiture. Nick Turley, OpenAI's head of product for ChatGPT, testified that the company would consider purchasing Chrome if it becomes available. The statement comes amid discussions on potential remedies to address Google's alleged monopolistic practices in online search and advertising. Turley highlighted that integrating ChatGPT with Chrome could offer users an enhanced AI-driven browsing experience, and he noted that OpenAI had previously approached Google to incorporate its search technology into ChatGPT, but was declined. Turley mentioned facing significant quality issues with his current provider. Now, he didn't name Microsoft Bing, that unknown provider of search services. We've talked about how the Microsoft OpenAI partnership may have some issues, but this is another little nugget of information. Anyway, back to our main story. The Department of Justice has proposed the sale of Chrome as one of the remedies to curb Google's dominance. While Google plans to appeal the ruling, the potential divestiture of Chrome, which holds a significant share of the browser market, could reshape the dynamics of online search and advertising. Right now, Google is clear Chrome is not for sale. But it also says that Chrome, essentially a free browser, couldn't survive on its own if it was forced to spin off. But OpenAI, with over 1 billion users and hundreds of millions of visitors per week? Wouldn't that be the ultimate? With Google then having to go to OpenAI to get permission to use Chrome for its own AI? Or to turn to Microsoft? Who said irony was dead? A recent CNN report highlights growing concerns among teenagers and parents about the impact of social media on youth mental health. According to the article, 44% of parents believe social media negatively affects their children's mental well-being. But even more surprisingly, nearly half of U.S. teens say social media has a mostly negative impact on people their age, and almost the same proportion say they're cutting back on social media use. The survey was conducted by Pew Research with over 1,300 teenage participants between 13 to 17 years old last October. And 48% said they think social media has a mostly negative effect on people their age. And that's up from 32% when Pew asked the same question in a different survey in 2022. That's a big jump from the last survey. Just 11% of teens today say they think social media is mostly positive for their peers. And 44% of teen respondents say they've cut back on time spent on social media and smartphones, but the numbers skew more towards teen girls cutting back, with about 48% of them versus 40% for boys. Now, that lines up with research from 2019 that suggests that the link between social media and depression may be stronger in teen girls than boys, and that social media may harm girls' mental health by increasing their exposure to bullying and decreasing activities that have a positive impact on their well-being. In fact, in 2021, Meta's own research found that Instagram makes body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teen girls. And this impact may extend beyond their teen years. There are a number of studies that show that when Gen Z has entered the workforce, they have struggled with communication. Many companies are experimenting with training to help these young employees adapt and increase their ability to communicate effectively in a real-world work setting. The positive part of this is the number of teens who realize that social media is having a negative effect on them is growing, from 32% in 2022 to 48% in the last survey. But from watching social media interaction with adults in the past few years, especially around the past 2 elections in Canada and in the US, at least we can say that teenagers realize the damage that social media is doing to their ability to communicate. And that's our show. You can reach me by email at editorial@technewsday.ca, or as I said, and irony is not dead, you can reach me on social media on LinkedIn. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, just drop me a note in the comments. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a thrilling Thursday.